Welcome, everyone, to A Mexican and a Redneck Father the World. We are your hosts and surrogate fathers, Juan and Ben. Today we'll be discussing loving your kids as much as you love yourself. I don't know much, but I know I love you.
I was gonna shout Christmas.
Christmas!
Yeah.
We're still writhing from the last episode, y'all. And for those of you that can still hear, we'll proceed with the podcast. The rest of you that just went deaf, we're sorry about that.
Sorry about that.
It wasn't our fault.
Yeah.
It was Christmas's fault.
So I want to talk about this. I've been really thinking about loving your kids and how you love yourself, and then the intent of why we do things for them, why we don't do things for them, but then how we'll do things for ourselves, but then we won't do it for our kids. So kind of like when I make a mistake, I give myself a lot of grace because I made the mistake. So I'm like, you know, Juan, you're just having a bad day. It's okay. We'll learn from this. Let's just take it as a learning experience. You know, it's a mistake. It's no big deal. But then I find myself with my kids, they make a mistake, and I was like, you should have known better. Why didn't you pay attention? What, you know? So it's like, I'm finding myself at times, Ben, where I'm not giving the same grace to my kids that I'm giving to myself. So I really got hit. It's like, I've learned how to love myself, but am I using that towards my kids and giving them the same grace?
Ooh. Because you have the perspective of why Juan messed up that thing that day.
Yeah.
You understood fully. But with your kids, it's like, well, why weren't they listening? I told them how to do the thing, and they still messed up.
Yeah.
They should have been listening.
I'm
so important.
I have the thought process. I know what was going on in my mind as to why I made that mistake. So then it's like, well, yeah, I was just being distracted. You know, that's why I did that. But then when your kid does something and you're like, what were you doing? Why were you paying attention? It's like, well, you know, what happens with you when you're doing something and you don't pay attention and you make a mistake? Do you berate yourself? And some people may do, which if you do, please stop. It's not good for you.
Yeah, don't berate yourself too much.
You should always be your number one fan. That's one key in life. If the world is going to come against you, there should be at least one person that's for you, and that's yourself. You should always be your number one encourager.
Oh, man, I talk to people sometimes, and I used to do this, and then I heard this perspective, and I'm passing it on. This is not me. I totally learned this, but someone made this statement. I don't know if I was watching a show or listening to a podcast or what, but the person was doing something, and they were berating themselves. They're like, oh, I'm just a useless idiot or whatever. And then their friends like, would you like it if I talked to you that way? Like, what do you mean? Like, if someone came up to you and said, you're a useless idiot, would you like, if someone said that to you, I would look at them and be like, what is wrong with you? Why would you call my friend a useless idiot? You know, but you're sitting here calling yourself a useless idiot. It's like, I wouldn't stand that if anyone else did it. Why are you, I can't be your friend and let you do it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And don't berate yourself. I mean, hold yourself accountable. Try to do right. Examine your life every day to see how you can be better and get rid of some of the bad stuff. But don't stand around calling yourself an idiot or worthless or whatever. That's terrible. Yeah. Like you said, you need a number one fan for sure.
Yeah. Because, I think a lot of guys will do this when we make a mistake. And let's say we did something like we forgot about something. We forgot our wife's birthday or something like that. And you kind of berate yourself in front of her to kind of get some grace. I'm like, oh, I feel so bad and this and that. That way they don't, they won't be so angry at you. But then that habit becomes a bad habit too, where you're doing it when nobody's watching. So then you're just teaching yourself that you're that mistake instead of learning from that mistake. So then if you're applying that same principle to your kids, when they make a mistake, are you berating them for the mistake, or are you taking that opportunity to love on them and learn from that mistake and understand where was your thought process? what was going on when that happened.
Oh yeah,
I'm not mad at you. I just want to learn. I
absolutely.
still love you.
I am. If you're in my life, I am your number one fan. I might disagree with some of the stuff you do, but it's like I'm still rooting for you.
Oh yeah.
Like I want you one or my wife, my kids, friends, other family, whatever. I'm just like, man, I hope you succeed. Can I be a part of it?
Yeah.
I don't agree with where you are now, maybe on one thing or another, but in the big scheme of things, I totally love you. And I'm just like, yeah, go on, go, do it.
Well,
Get to the top of the mountain.
I'm right there. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Ben. And I think that's one of the big reasons why we're doing this podcast, because we believe in men. We believe that men can do better.
Oh, yeah.
And without, and we're not here to berate you. We're not here to be like, oh, you suck as a man.
Yeah.
Cut your balls off and give them to a cat. That's a saying my dad used to say all the time.
What?
Yeah, my dad would say he has some sayings. He would be like, whenever if you weren't doing something right, he's like, why don't you just cut your balls off and give it to that cat? And I'm like, what? What does that even mean? It was like, yeah, it's just, it's like, I'm like, oh, it's I love my dad. I love my dad. It's like, what is the cat gonna do with my balls?
Just play with them.
I guess so.
They're cat toys. They're useless. It's no different from a mouse or whatever a cat plays with.
That's a good saying. But anyways, yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't cut your balls off.
It's very painful. One time I remember we bought some pigs and we had to castrate the pigs. Have you ever castrated pigs, Ben?
I have never castrated pigs.
It scarred me. It kind of scarred me a little bit, but it definitely scarred the pig. My daddy just used a sharp knife, cut the testicles open, ripped them out, and put some lemon juice on it. It looked very.
Oh, golly! Yeah. That's
Very
brutal. Is that how you do it?
That's how he did it. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to do it, but that's how he did it. It looked painful, but those pigs.
Sounds painful.
But those pigs were delicious once we ate them.
I guess so. Did you like the balls too?
I haven't had pig balls. I had bull testicles. Rocky Mountain oysters, is that what they call them? Yeah. I remember my dad one time, he came home with just this big old sack full of bull testicles. And like, I was a kid, I didn't know what the heck they were. And I was like, and he cooked them up. I mean, they were delicious. And then finally, grew up.
That's all
like,
that matters.
It's like, what was that? He's like, oh, bull testicles. And I was like, oh, that was good. Okay, yeah, give me.
Apparently, I like them. Okay, things I didn't know about myself.
Yeah. So
that's cool. But yeah, loving your kids as much as yourself. And there's a mirror image with children I've observed in my life. Like my kids are getting a little older. I've put some time in, and the way they behave, I realize, oh, I have that behavior.
Oh yeah.
I thought I was one way, but now they're mirroring who I am. And maybe I could be a little bratty at times or mouthy or whatever. And it's, how much do I love myself? Because apparently I'm only loving myself so far. And I'm saying, I think I've observed, and I think that people misconstrue love and intentions.
Yep.
I have good intentions for my children. I want to give them the best schools, the best food, the best house, the best clothes, the best opportunities, things I never had. And it's like, yeah, who doesn't? Don't we all want them to do better than we did and stand on our shoulders and go further than we ever could? It's like, well, yeah. It's like that kind of starts with, number one, figuring out, okay, what's my perception of love? Is it just giving them stuff? Or is it giving them emotional, mental, spiritual, physical tools to actually move forward in life and do better and be, what I perceived I couldn't,
because I think, dude, that is so true as far as like how a lot of times we judge ourselves based on our intentions, but then we judge others based on their actions. And it really should be the opposite. We should judge our children based on their intentions, not on their actions. If we took that perspective as like, hey, what was the intention behind it? Because if you actually take the time to understand what the intention was behind it, and it may be something as simple as like your child drew on the wall, and then if you respond in an angry way, but you don't find out the intention behind it, hey, I was just trying to paint a portrait of my family because I love you.
because there's a picture of our family on the wall,
Right.
and
So
I was making my version of it on my wall that I with my crayons that you gave me.
Right.
I was trying to do what you did. I want to be like you.
And it's like, that's a sweet gesture. Yeah, it messes up the wall. But you know what? That wall can be fixed.
Right.
But that emotional scar that you give to that child is going to be there. And I found myself having to realizing like, oh, I've scarred my daughter in some ways. The other day she told me, it's like, Daddy, I don't like it when you act like a bear. You're just so grumpy. And I felt myself, I was like, oh my gosh, I am being a bear to her. I'm being this big, ugly bear. And I looked at her and I said, baby, I'm sorry. Can you help Daddy not be a bear? And she looked at me because I invited her in to walk with me, to work with me. It wasn't like, I didn't tell her, hey, you just got to deal with it. But I asked for her input. Can you please help me understand that? And she explained it to me. And it was this beautiful, sweet moment. Ben, we had this moment of connecting. And it was just this joyful moment where Daddy wasn't a bear. I was a loving daddy. And we just embraced each other. And it was just so beautiful, Ben.
Oh yeah.
And I know she's going to remember that because I remember that.
And it humanized you to her.
And I experienced that.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I want more of those moments. I was thinking about it, how we punish our kids sometimes. And a lot of the times we use punishment. The way that we do it is that we deprive them of joyful things, of moments. But I was telling you about this. I remember when I was in elementary school, like I would get in trouble. And so they'd be like, hey, there's this play, but you're not going to go to the play because you haven't been good. So I was like, I don't care. I've never been to a play. I don't know what it feels like. But then I was thinking back, had I experienced the play, had I experienced the joy of like, hey, this is what it feels like, and losing that, I think that would have been more powerful as a learning lesson. Because I look back at my daughter, now that I have this experience of her and I connecting and understanding each other, I want more of that. I don't want to lose that. I don't want her to lose that. And it makes me want to be a better dad for her. It makes me want to be a better dad for all my kids so that I can share that moment of not being that grumpy bear or being known as a grumpy bear, but being known as that loving father who plays with me.
Absolutely.
Who understands me, who listens to me. And I think that's powerful.
And it is. Like, people kind of neglect the power of vulnerability. Even with children, they're like, I don't want to be vulnerable to this child because you like the way it feels when you're Superman to your kids, or to your wife or to your coworkers. And sometimes you can look at your kids and go, I'm doing the best I can. And if I've made the wrong decision, I'm sorry I made the wrong decision. But I don't know how to be a parent all the time. I'm just making decisions because I need to be there for you. But if I'm being grumpy, let me know. I mean, sometimes, yeah, there has to be correction, but you shouldn't perceive me as grumpy. You shouldn't perceive me as this wall that just bosses you around. Like, we need to grow together. We're in this together. I'm your father, but you're my child. How can I lead you but still let you see me as something that's attainable? How can I walk hand in hand with you in life, not stand behind you and push you off a cliff and then just let you fall and land up where you may, and that's the difference. It's a constant pursuit of learning who you are, learning how to truly love yourself, accept yourself, get over your problems, but also helping your kids, and loving them and showing them how to get over their problems, get over their issues, and not just make everything about a function, like, well, I taught you how to stand up to that bully. Yeah. So now you've stood up to the, it's like, no, they're teaching you confidence. Yeah. Your parents generally see the thing they're trying to help you overcome, but below that, they understand these are basic issues. Well, you make your bed every morning, and it's like, I don't want to make my bed. It's like, yeah, but if they teach you to do those chores, then it teaches you a bigger issue, but you can't see it when you're little. But your parents are like, oh, yeah, well, it's very important for you to handle those chores.
Oh, yeah. And the one thing I do realize with this, with it, that I've realized, life is a journey, and your kids are given to you not necessarily as a burden on you. Oh, I got these little kids that I got to take care of and raise them up and make sure that they're good, productive adults. That's part of it. But at the same time, my goal for my kids is I want to be their friend. Not right now, but when they grow up,
Yeah.
when they become adults, I want them to be like, man, my dad really took the time to understand me. He didn't judge me based on my actions. He took the time to understand my intent behind my actions.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm an adult, I want more of that. And I find myself that because, as I look back, I look at my life where my dad judged me based on my actions, but he didn't actually take the time to look at the intent behind my actions. And it's built up this wall of separation to where I don't feel comfortable going to him and trying to explain, hey, this is what I'm trying to do, because he's going to look at the actions and not the intent.
Oh yeah.
But then when you have that person in your life, that becomes that father figure, you're able to go to them and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. But then they're able to ask the question, well, why? They don't just look at the action; they look at the why behind it, and then they're able to guide you to a better outcome of becoming that. So with that, with that being said, guys, just the purpose of this message is not just it's just learning to understand yourself. Like, if you don't love yourself, maybe take some time and understand like why you don't love yourself. Look at yourself. Why are you being critical of yourself, and are you passing that criticism onto your kids? And if you are, stop or figure out fix that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It goes back to what we were saying before. You should be your number one fan.
You should be.
If anybody believes, if anybody believes in Ben as much as Ben does, that's awesome. But Ben should believe on Ben.
Nobody's going to believe in me as much as I believe in myself.
Right. Yeah. Because if, in that makes sense. Like, if you're like, hey, if I'm believing more for you than you're believing for yourself, it's not going to work.
Right. You'll be disappointed in me at some
Very
point.
much. Yeah.
And you won't want to be around me as much.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, with that being said, we want to thank you for listening to A Mexican Redneck Follow the World. We love you, and we're proud of you.